Chip was in Vegas, rubbing elbows with the Big Ten folk. How was the Strip?
So there's probably like three answers here. Okay. Number one, I would not do Big Ten media days in Las Vegas again.
Really? You personally, or if you were the league?
If I was the league.
Okay.
I think that, while it's throwing a bone to USC, UCLA,
sure,
and Washington and Oregon,
right,
while some of these schools really took advantage of it as a way to fly some donors out,
okay,
a lot of players' families came with them. Like we had some of the older players, their families came with them. Illinois did a big donor event. They took their players out and they recreated scenes from The Hangover as like a social media thing. Like there were some teams that really leaned in. I also know a lot of beat writers that couldn't afford to get out there. Your East Coast, your East Coast based media that said, I don't know. And that's why, when we were in the Mandalay Bay Convention Center, it's very sprawling. It's up 3 levels of an escalator. Like when I thought about media days in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay, I kind of thought you'd get the Vegas feel. We'd have shots of the casino and people milling around. And so, I understand why it's going to move around, but it didn't really give you that, big media days buzz. Now, that said, I could not be more proud of what we did in terms of 2 hours, all 3 days live on CBS Sports Network, probably another 2.5 hours of stuff on CBS Sports HQ, taped interviews. I mean, we talked to all the heavy hitters like Ryan Day, James Franklin, Dan Lanning, Jed Fish, Lincoln Riley. And I thought that our conversations were awesome. So, was it like this awesome rockin' Las Vegas, scene? No, not really. But I felt like I learned a lot. I felt like we had a lot of great conversations that we were able to take to Cover 3. So to me, selfishly, it was a great week.
Baccarat, Pie Gal, what'd you play?
Craps.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you. I think we had.
Because look, this is the other part of it. Just taking a breath in Vegas is $7. So I need a game that I could. I mean, at that point, you're not even playing to win money. You're playing because it is a cheaper endeavor than literally anything else that you would do for 2 hours. And hey, we've got 2 hours to kill before dinner. Okay, I promise you that like your total losses might be less just going out there and playing 6-8 pass line. Sprinkle a little 9 when we land on the 8. Like, maybe you want to do little ones, big ones, and some of those exotic props. That's more Danny Cannell's side. But we just post up at the craps table and have a good time on some rolls.
Real funny. The first time I ever went there to Vegas, my dad says, "Hey, go play Let It Ride," which is a card game. He says, you'll probably lose like you will at blackjack, but you'll lose slowly.
Right.
Yeah. And then I called him after I lost 11 hands in a row and said, yeah, I lost pretty fast at Let It Ride. But yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. So let's get into Tony Petitti and that show real quick. Do you think he truly believes in the college football play? Like, does he believe that's best for college football in terms of 4 automatic bids, play-in games, in the division, 3 versus 6, 4 versus... Does he really believe it? Because it's fine if he doesn't. Or is he basically just saying, this is the way I know my league gets 4 teams?
I think that he is voicing like one thing that the Big Ten has that the SEC might not was it seems like the university presidents, athletic directors, and coaches are all on the same page.
Right.
Yeah. And it seems also as though it's a little bit more of a threat or a negotiating position than it is a true, this is the best thing for all of college football. The one thing that Tony Petitti has been very, very consistent on dating back to last year's media days is his number one interest. Because the questions last year were, hey, the expanded college football playoff is going to be about 12 teams. How many teams are you expected to get in there? They're really sort of prying him on what it was going to look like again last year, going into year 1 of the 12-team format. And he said it last year, and he echoed it again this year. His number one interest is having the most amount of buzz and intrigue and attention on the final games of the regular season. And to me, I'm hearing it, and I'm like, yeah, of course you would like your teams to go get into the playoff because that's going to be good for their teams and their programs. You would love for the teams to go and win a national championship, just like Michigan and Ohio State have done each of the last 2 years. But at the end of the day, those financials don't greatly change what's going on for a majority of the Big Ten schools. What happens for a majority of the Big Ten schools is big ratings on November conference games. So everything, even going back to last year, has all come back to his focus, which is, look, college football playoff, that's not ours, right? Mm-hmm. Because the media rights partners of the Big Ten, of which CBS is one, do not have any stake in the college football playoff at this time. The ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 all have a media rights partner exclusively for the ACC and the SEC that are very much driving and are the ones who hand out the invitations to the invitational. So he is not on the playoff doesn't matter, but he is at least on it is not our most important focus. And so that's where I don't feel as much passion coming from that push as much as it may be a negotiating position.
Yeah, look, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, that if we're going to have 12 or 6, doesn't really matter the number. I mean, to me, you would want the best teams there. And the bigger you get, the less importance the regular season has. Now, might not matter. The last week of the regular season, there might be 8 or 9 games across not just the Big Ten, but across everywhere that have legitimate playoff implications. I think we had that the last weekend of the regular season, not conference championship weekend, but the last weekend of the regular season. Like, I think that you could have made arguments for teams like, South Carolina at the bottom of the at-large pool, especially if we go to 16, where there are 4 more spots available. So I think that happens naturally. I don't know that it happens the way Tony Petitti was dreaming it with 3 versus 6. Obviously, that game would matter. But what would be really bad if 6 just happened to be like a 7-4 team that really hadn't done much during the course of the season and beats a 3, and all of a sudden you've got a not so great team in the playoff based on some cockamamie way of doing it.
I mean, I would not, again, after doing the whole Media Days tour, right, I would not be surprised if we're still at 12.
Yeah.
And that
would that be terrible?
No, it would not be terrible.
It would not be terrible.
Because to your point, think about the position of the Miami Hurricanes, who went into the final week of the regular season with the table set to be an at-large contender at a minimum and potentially be an ACC champion. All they had to do was defend a 21-point lead
at
on
Syracuse.
The road against Syracuse. Syracuse comes back, bounces Miami from the title game, opens door for Clemson. Clemson gets in and wins the title game in a thriller against SMU. SMU gets chosen. Alabama left out, along with South Carolina and Ole Miss. We had really a lot of what they were looking for in terms of drama all the way down, even with 12. We don't need to expand to be able to, fabricate or create that kind of drama.
Real quick, I spent maybe too much time talking about this. It bothered me. The debate was Indiana versus Alabama for that last, and it wasn't even for the last at-large spot because Indiana, right, it was SMU.
Yeah,
but somehow the debate became Indiana-Alabama, and you and I have talked about this. I don't understand why Miami wasn't part of that debate. Both of Miami's losses were acceptable losses. You lose to a Georgia Tech team that should have beaten Georgia, and then you lose to a 10-win Syracuse team on the road. I understand it was a come-from-ahead loss. I'm not even debating, and I'm not even trying to say that Miami was so great. But
Miami did have to overcome a lot of second half deficits.
No doubt.
Virginia Tech and Duke.
All of that. Game control. Yeah. We had all this game, which we had with Florida State way back in the day, game control, which I'd never heard of before. But Miami should have been part of that conversation, and they just weren't. And whatever that's worth. Let me ask you, Chip Patterson, as always on a Wednesday, let me ask you about James Franklin. Because Franklin was asked, it might have been you guys asking him, to be honest, about expectations for this year. You know, you have one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country, a team that is always good, just never good enough. And he says expectations are always the same. The expectation is to, I guess, compete for a national championship. How good are they?
Oh, you know what they look like? Right now? The Penn State Nittany Lions, because they've got players, multiple players, who could have been 5th round, 4th round NFL draft picks, right?
Right.
And they're all back.
NIL. Beautiful.
They are old. They're experienced. They've got this kind of, unfinished business attitude. They look a lot like Michigan in 23. They look a lot like Ohio State in 24. They've got a schedule that sets up very, very nicely. A Jim Harbaugh approved non-conference slate to be able to really roll into this thing. Man, if Penn State can do it, and then remember, they were a bad Drew Aller cross his body interception away from beating Notre Dame in the semifinals and getting to play for the national championship last year. I think that Penn State looks like Michigan and Ohio State from the last 2 years, I think Penn State can win the national championship. The thing that is so much fun for someone like me and so anxiety-riddled for anyone who cares about Penn State is that it really, all of your emotions are going to come down to maybe 3 games. It's going to come down to Ohio State in the regular season. You hope the Big Ten championship game, and then in the college football playoff. Because there are going to be large portions of this season where they are just rolling over teams because they are so much older, bigger, stronger, better than those squads. And I think that it's just going to be a lot of fun to see whether or not they can do it. Because to me, it has the now or never. If I'm going to be overly dramatic, it's now or never. If Penn State's not going to do it this year, I don't know if they're going to do it. Like that's the over-dramatized overselling of what I think is Penn State has every bit what they need in a way that they have not had under James Franklin to go and win a national championship.
Are they going to be the poster child for the strength of schedule debate? Because this is the first time I've looked at it. They literally have a 2-game season.
Right.
Oregon to open up conference play, week 4, I believe, and the trip to Ohio State.
Right.
Right, yeah. Oregon in Happy Valley, the trip to Ohio State in like week, their 8th game, I think. And they they have one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. So are they going to be the poster child for strength of schedule debates?
Probably, but I just think that because they were in the Final Four last year, there's a floor to how low you can push them. Right. It's just there's an acceptance in the way that the Texas Longhorns got a free pass with no quality wins.
Right.
Until all through last season, what's the difference between Texas's best wins and Indiana's best wins? You and I have already had it out over Indiana. Which, by the way, Indiana's one loss against Ohio State. Miss me that Georgia Tech and Syracuse were as quality as Ohio State.
No. I'm not debating that at all. Right.
I think that Penn State, because it's not Indiana, because it's Penn State, gets the free pass that a Texas did. Texas did not have many quality wins as it continued to be ranked highly last year. But what was Texas doing at the end of the season before? They were playing in the semifinals. So I think that because of Penn State's success, continuity, returning production, I think they're going to get a free pass as they, look really good on CBS, America's Most Watched Network, the network of stars, and the kickoff of Big Time Week 1 against Nevada.
Nevada. Go.
Hold back 2 words.
Chip Patterson is joining us here. Oh, wait, something we didn't get a chance to talk about 2 weeks ago that I actually wrote down we got to do. The whole born on third base coach. Like the coach that, like, I'm not saying they didn't earn it because that is unfair to the coach, but their first head coaching gig is ultimately, boom. I mean, you are, like Larry Coker was handed a national championship by Butch Davis. Here, take it. I'm going to coach the Cleveland Browns. Still maybe one of the worst decisions ever made in coaching, right? To go coach the Browns, of all teams, and pass up that roster with the University of Miami. Now, Coker only won one of the two because he got Craig Krenzeled in the second of those what would have been back-to-back national championships. Which coach qualifies highest on your list of born on third base?
Well, the thing that was so fun about this discussion is that, it comes from Jim Harbaugh taking a shot at Ryan Day. Isn't Jim Harbaugh's successor born on third base?
Yes.
Sharon Moore,
right.
Inheriting he inherits an NCAA scandal, and he has to serve a 2-game suspension this year, but he's also taking over Michigan after reaching heights it had not reached in the modern era. The other fun part of this, again, Ryan Day. Did Urban Meyer is Urban Meyer born on third base? Was, and this is a good one, was Urban Meyer born on third base twice because he inherited a talented roster from Ron Zook who could recruit,
True.
but he could not coach. So in 06, 08, that's fully Urban's team. And
yes.
For all of its positives and negatives, that is fully Urban's team in 08.
Correct.
But the 06 team, under North Carolina's own Chris Leak, like that's a lot of Ron Zook's work.
Yep.
And when he shows up at Ohio State, that's Tressel had built up that roster a lot. They go 12-0 in the year that they cannot play for Big Ten championship or a national championship. They come back the next year, of course, lose to Virginia Tech, but then make it all the way to the very end, winning the title. I think it's really interesting how you can look at some of these. The born on third base starts with a Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. I think within the Michigan-Ohio State histories, we've got a couple of born on third base candidates.
So is Michigan going to be any good this year?
Yeah, they'll be like 8-win good.
Okay, so no, not for Michigan.
Well, so they've got the unique position where, because so much has been invested, both in terms of actual money, but also your planning in their quarterback, Bryce Underwood, who might be awesome. Mm-hmm. He's a true freshman. They're going to see if he can win the job. But this is very much anything that happens, good or bad, is about his development with an eye towards next season being a year where you feel like you can really go make a run at it. It's unfortunate because with all the upheaval, Oregon's got a new quarterback, Ohio State's got a new quarterback, and for all the glowing things I said about Penn State's still Penn State, you would think that there's an opportunity to really go and jump to the front of the Big Ten. But unfortunately, Michigan, like Oregon, I think is very much in a reload mode where they're good enough and talented enough that they're probably going to be in that 8-9 win category, but they need to answer some questions on the field before I can take them into playoff contender status.
All right, here's my my vote for born on third base. Lincoln Riley, who
Bob Stoops just handed it over.
Handed him a roster, and he's been good, but at times they've looked great, but they haven't, other than beating Texas, have they won any big games? And like, how many years now is it? 3 years at Southern Cal?
He won 11 games and finished in the top spot outside of the college football playoff in year one. If Caleb Williams doesn't pop his hammy in the Big 12, in the Pac-12 title game, then they probably win that.
But they were giving up thousands of points.
And still, they were 11-3 that year, So I think that Lincoln Riley is interesting because I'll tell you what Lincoln Riley's had to do in the last couple of years is he actually has had to work at USC because you know what USC's kind of like, and I haven't been able to make this connection with everyone I talk to because they don't understand really the intricacies, but I think you'll get it, and especially the audience. USC has had a little bit of a North Carolina basketball situation where the efforts to modernize have not had as much urgency because you've been able to just get by on USC, and that's a lot of off-field stuff. That's a lot of facilities and strength and conditioning and video coordinators and general managers. And, those are things that really Lincoln hasn't gotten his house in order until about 5 months ago. And so I'm talking with him and I was just like, hey man, well that must be nice. Cause he said, this is the first time I feel like I've gotten back to real coaching basically since I've gotten here. Cause it's been so much fundraising, so much managing, so much like putting the pieces in place. It's like, man, that must feel great. He's like, it's phenomenal. And the way that he like said it, I was like, okay, this is the first time that he's really had to work because of what you spoke of at Oklahoma. But now with some things behind him, it sounds like he's getting back to the stuff that Lincoln likes to do.
People forget that when the city of Los Angeles was absent an NFL team, they really leaned into the Southern Cal program. And I think you could make the argument that they have always been LA's pro team. That's been their football passion at Southern Cal, playing in the Coliseum and all of that. And I mean, you see it on the sidelines. It's like a Laker game on the sidelines at Southern Cal, and it's been since Pete Carroll left. It's been a while since we have seen student body left and student body right. And I know they don't run those anymore, but as a kid growing up, man, every USC tailback in like one after another was a star. And I grew up, I loved watching Southern Cal. I would almost root for the Big Ten if Southern Cal was good again.
I got USC and Washington as my mid-pack sleepers who could jump up and end up finishing, fourth in the conference standings, somewhere around there. I think it could be a year where the Big Ten not only is only getting about 3 teams in the playoff. I think it could be a year where even that third might be right on the cutting room floor.
Will Iowa score more than 17 points a game?
Y'all, Mark Gronowski might be the real deal.
Okay.
All right. South Dakota State, the Walter Payton FCS Player of the Year. Man can scoot just a little bit. Kirk Ferentz admitted, he's like, man, it's been a while since I felt good about the quarterback position. So he thinks he has one, at least in Gronowski.
Chip Patterson. Next week, sir, we are going to look ahead to Bethpage.
All right.
There you go. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
I'm sorry, Sam Burns. You really,
it's not going to happen.
Don't put Sam Burns on the team just so that Scotty babysits him. Okay, that spot can be used for something else.
Scotty's busy babysitting somebody else.
Let Scotty and Bennett go play 4-ball.
It'd be about the same result as Scotty and Sam Burns. All right, Chip. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Y'all be well.